So now, I get to introduce our guest minister for today, Rev James Peak. He is known for his fun and unique, yet deeply spiritual approach to life, which includes a passion for presenting and teaching universal principles in ways that people can relate to in their everyday lives. He believes that learning about and practicing unconditional love is key to living in a powerful, creative, and joy-filled universe. Most recently, he served at the Namaste Center for Spiritual Living in Long Beach, which is a place near and dear to me, for 6 years. And then the last 3, he served as senior minister. He is a traveling minister now, not a traveling minstrel, but a traveling minister. So we get to have him today. And I wanted to add what Reverend Catherine said about Reverend James. She was honored to serve as Dean for Reverend James in his time at Homes Institute. And this was when she saw clearly the gift he is to everyone around him. She says his huge heart and great love for others shines brightly. James is a loving and welcoming presence whose passion for serving others is quite remarkable. This is from Catherine, and I know that you will see it and gain great inspiration from him today. So please welcome Reverend James Peak.
Well, it is wonderful to be here with all of you. I'm still kind of that Catherine bio thing, I can totally relate to what John was saying, about those fake bios. That one wasn't too bad. When I answered the call at the ministerial graduation, she had this huge bio, and I was like, who is that? It wasn't even me. I don't think it really was. But here on Father's Day, I'm thrilled to be here. I've kind of got this Father's Day thing figured out from pretty much every angle. I'm a father, I'm a stepfather, I'm a son, I'm a stepson. I've kind of played all of those different roles. In our family, I like to think of myself as Obi-Wan Kenobi. Yes, the father of spirit and the great guiding force, and my wife and son think of me as more as Phil Dunphy from the Modern Family. So keeping with that energy for a moment, I thought I'd do a silly little goofy quick joke to get us started. So this mother and father are sitting down on the couch watching TV, and it's just a normal evening, and suddenly their son, who's about 12 years old, runs down the stairs, and his face is all red, and his arms are all red. And he's like, I don't know what to do, I'm all itchy, I'm hot. And mother jumps up and says, oh, we've got to run you to urgent care quickly. And the father turns and says, let's not make any rash decisions. But with the theme here this month of power, what really comes up for me when I think about power is that really is the promise of this teaching. It's the promise of Science of Mind, is that we have the power. We don't have to seek it, beg for it, hope that we can go through somebody to get to it. But we have the power to change our lives. And it's a simple idea: change your thinking, change your life. Make different choices, your life changes. But it's not necessarily the easiest thing to do. We can feel very powerful at times, and who doesn't love to feel powerful, right? Especially if we're in fear. You can take fear, and suddenly if you can feel powerful around it, it can transform that fear. We can start to use that energy to change things in our life and do things different. But the beauty is that we're not bound by the past. Regardless of where we're at in life, regardless of the circumstances that may have occurred in the past, by simply thinking differently, beginning to act differently, even if I have to fake it a little at first, I can change the direction of my life. I have the power to do that. And yet, if I'm being very real, there's times in our life where something comes up and we can suddenly feel powerless. Where it's like it just got taken away from us. And on this day, Father's Day, I recognize that this day in the relationship that one may have had with their father or as a father, and the same for Mother's Day, can be some of those times in our life where that power seems to just go away. We may be drawn into challenges, feelings of sorrow or sadness. For some, it's a day filled with celebration and fun and honoring and remembrance. Now for myself, it's always a little bit of a mixed bag. Because some of the greatest joys have been as a father, and some of the greatest challenges. When my wife and I married, we each had a tween about to become a teen daughter, so that was fun. Blending two girls, becoming teenagers, come on. And then a year later, we had a newborn who did not like to be quiet. So there were some definitely challenges as being a father. And another one of my major challenges when I was a stepson, I was 14, my mom had remarried, and my stepfather came home to announce that we were moving from Lansing, Michigan to outside Detroit. And I was so happy in Lansing. It was like life was perfect. I had friends, I had a girlfriend, if you can have one at 14. And of course, she was the sister of my best friend, so it was like a great excuse to go visit my friend. But life was great, and then one day, just like, suddenly I got how powerless I was in that moment, at least in that family structure. But my most challenging time, where I felt the least power in my life, around these different roles of being a father, stepfather, son, and stepson, is when I was a son about 4 years old. And my parents got divorced. Now, when you're 4 and your parents get divorced, I don't really know how much you can really think about and understand what's really going on. What I do recall is that suddenly life changed because we were living in the Bay Area, and my brother and I went to live with my grandparents for a couple of years when my mom could figure out how she, as a single woman, going to raise these two kids. She didn't have a college education or anything at that time. This was back in 1962. And my grandparents were very loving, especially my grandfather. He would remind us that he was very Christian-oriented, but a good kind of Christian, a loving Jesus teacher. And he would remind us that Jesus loved us. And I had an aunt who was about 9 years older. My brother and I, who was a year and a half younger, we lived with my grandparents for a couple of years until we could move back to California. But I soon realized the challenges of being the only family that didn't have two parents. In my whole elementary school, there were two families that had a divorce, but one, the mom had remarried, so we were the only single mother family, which might seem weird for California. Back in the mid-60s, that was the situation. So I would feel shame, and I would feel weird and different, and I was really struggling. And I would have to overcome these challenges. I remember going to a pancake supper. I liked baseball, I was pretty good at it. Went to this pancake supper dinner for our baseball team, and when I got there, I didn't know ahead of time. I somehow missed this information. But I showed up, and it was supposed to be the father-son pancake supper dinner. And I was the only kid without a father there. Because for whatever reason, my dad just didn't come and visit. He lived about 20 minutes away, didn't come and visit for years. There was one time I remember he did, was when his dad, my grandfather, was going to come to visit, so he came by a week earlier to visit, so he maybe have something to tell my grandpa. But it was really challenging because you feel like the earth is constantly moving, you don't know who you are, and even at that age. It was like these questions about worth and things were coming in. The biggest challenge I had was I joined Cub Scouts. Like, okay, I'm going to join the Cub Scouts, I'm going to be part of something. And you get the book, you can get your merit badges for those that are familiar with the Scouts. And they said, just go through the book, pick out something that you're good at, that you enjoy, and you can get your first merit badge for that. So for me, it was cooking. Because with single mom, going to night school, I had to cook for my brother twice a week when she went to school. So of course, I earned my merit badge in cooking, and we have the little get-together, everybody's going to get their badge, and they announce Jimmy Peak gets his first merit badge in cooking, and everybody laughed. I was done with Boy Scouts at that point. So it felt very lonely. And other than kind of leaning into this teaching that my grandfather had given me about Jesus and about the idea of God being a presence and a loving force in our life, I didn't have much to lean on. A few years later, we moved to Chicago. We're into this apartment complex where there's all these other families. And many of them were divorced families. It was like the whole world changed. I started to come out of that darkness. Started to feel lighter. Started to feel free. Like I had a sense of who I was. My idea about God had started to expand even greater. Or I felt this presence, this protective presence, this idea of one mind. I don't know where I got it from at that age. I was about 12. I started to develop these ideas. But it really started to make a difference in my life. Just knowing that there was a presence. It was beyond a faith, but it was a sense of a presence being there. And then years later, what I came to understand is that at that young age of 4, I had gone on a hero's journey. Now, if you're familiar with the hero's journey cycle, you probably could have related to some of the steps here, but I'm going to kind of go through it for all of us. Now, if you're not familiar with the hero's journey, it shows up in literature all over. Classic examples are Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz, Luke Skywalker in Star Wars, Harry Potter. Many successful movies, novels, follow the hero's journey cycle. So the journey starts with a call to adventure. Sometimes we choose the adventure. Luke had to choose to go on his adventure if you're a Star Wars person. Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz just kind of got sucked into it. Not much of a choice there. But anytime there's change, especially if it's significant change in our lives, marriages, divorces, job loss, birth of a child, loss of a loved one, moving across the country, we're embarking on a hero's journey. Actually, our whole life here in this human form is a journey of the soul. But when I had that call to adventure, I didn't choose my parents to get divorced, but I went on the call. I had to go on the journey whether I realized it or not. Now, typically in the journey, there's a protective figure, and in my case, it's my grandfather, and then later, to a greater degree, this idea of God or Spirit, which still carries the day, carries with me today. Often on a hero's journey, you'll have companions. Of course, Dorothy had her companions. And I had my brother, my aunt for a while, my grandparents. I did have one friend when we lived in California. I didn't have a lot. And he was Billy White, and he was a troublemaker. My mom did not like him. The significant piece of the hero's journey, at least the way that I look at things, is that you go through a period of trials and tribulations. And so the experience is like the pancake supper. Or realizing that we were the only family where there wasn't a mother and father at home. As hard and challenging as they are, they push you and they teach you and they force you almost to find your spiritual, your mental, your emotional, your physical weaknesses so that you can sharpen the sword, if you will. You can develop new skills that are going to serve you as you emerge from the journey. There's typically a dark night or a darkness or an abyss that one must go through. And for me, definitely that was that Cub Scout experience. I couldn't, at that age, imagine anything worse other than maybe losing my mother or my brother. But as you emerge out of the darkness, we come out of into the light. We have a new awareness and a new perspective on life, a greater expanded consciousness. Often our heart is more present and more powerful. And for me, when we moved to Chicago and I experienced these other families that were just like us, it was a freedom and a sense of okayness. And I could look back, especially years later, on my childhood and see that there were blessings there. As hard as it was, there were gifts. And ultimately, as we emerge from the hero's journey, we have this brand new way of being in the world. We have become a master of two worlds or two universes, the one that we left, and in the inner world that we've had to conquer, we've had to find our way with. We're constantly on these journeys. I was teaching a class once for a group of teens back in Arizona, the church we were at before we moved to California. And I used Star Wars as an example. It was Star Wars and the Hero's Journey for teens. It was a 3-week, 3 Sunday morning offering. And about a month after it completed, this mother came up and she just was running, excited, threw her arms around me, and she thanked me for teaching the class. I was like, oh, big Star Wars fan? And she said, no. She said, my son has wanted to try out for drama for 4 years and never had the courage. But then he said, Mom, I'm going to go start a hero's journey. And he tried out. And he was a small part, but he was selected to go ahead and participate in the play. That was really cool. But as we think about the hero within, there can be other voices, right, that are telling us something else. But the truth of it is that we all have that hero within. That regardless of where we're at on our path to awakening, regardless of what state we might be in, whether we're feeling like we're a victim or we're feeling really like with a strong personal will, feeling very empowered, or maybe we tend to go through life in kind of a co-creative mode, where we're kind of turning it over, letting God work through us, or even if we're experiencing life as the presence of love and God itself. There's always an opportunity to call upon that hero within to expand the consciousness, to have a different experience of life. So for those that might be feeling like a victim, or any time in our lives where there's an event that occurs and we feel that victim energy come in, this hero can remind us that we have the power to change our life, that there are always choices even if we don't see them. And if I'm feeling very empowered and I'm into that strong ego, go, going to create life, got goals, and I'm knocking it out of the park, that hero can give us the courage to begin to maybe turn some of that over to God. To understand that there's a power not only that we can use, but that can use us. It's greater than our idea of ourselves. If I'm in that co-creative place, where I'm allowing God to flow through and it's all good, the hero within can remind us that there's something more, that there's still a separation that can be dissolved away. That that spiritual idea of with God can dissolve into the truth of living life as the presence. That's really the foundation of this teaching. The promise is that we can change our lives. The foundation is oneness. There truly is only one. And so if I'm living as the presence, or I have moments as the presence, then the call becomes to show up with that hero's heart. The one that can recognize that we're on a journey, regardless of how dark things may be for others, we can show up and be that divine love, be that compassion. That they will emerge from the darkness. We can be a companion for them on their hero's journey. This is how we honor our own hero within, for ourselves and for others. So on this Father's Day, if this is a day that brings challenges and pain and sorrow, some challenging memories, I invite you to remember that there is a hero within. And that hero has the power and the answers and can guide you through into a grander, healing, more loving experience. And that this is a day that's filled with joy and gratitude and celebration. I invite you to fully open your heart, have that hero's heart, and support someone else who may not be experiencing the day that way. This is what it means to be in community. If I'm having a great day, I share it. If there's sorrow, I'm open to sharing that. And we support each other in the continued awareness and expansion of who we are. We allow that hero within to guide us from the darkness and into the light. Let us pray. So continuing in this consciousness of recognizing the power and the love that we are, and recognizing that hero within, we recognize that there is just this one life, that we are unique expressions of it, regardless of what words we use to describe it. That it simply is. It is the power and the presence. It is the infinite intelligence. It is the heart and the soul, the guiding influence. That it shows up as the beautiful waves pounding the beach, as the redwoods. Shows up as the beautiful children that play in the park. Is the sound of thunder, the sound of laughter. We recognize that there is this one life, and that thus we are each a beautiful expression of it in human form. We are not simply born of the image and the likeness of God, but we are the presence. That all those qualities of God that we recognize, we can only recognize them because they are part of who and what we are. We know beauty because we are beauty. We know power because we are power. We know love because we are love. And I know for each and every one of us this day, and each day going forward, that our lives are a perfect expression of our understanding of who and what God is. But as we step into a greater understanding and awareness and an awakening of what life is, then naturally that reflects in our lives and becomes an offering for everyone in our lives, a remembrance, an opportunity for them to recall that they are so much more. So this morning I give thanks for this opportunity to remember all this truth. And I give thanks for that creative law that takes the impress of our thoughts, that masculine idea, and drops it into the receptivity, creativity of the feminine energy and brings it forward in form. It's the perfect balance, the perfect dance of life upon itself. No beginning, no ending. And so from this place of gratitude, we simply let this treatment go into the law. We know it is done. We go forward in faith and trust and peace. And I invite you to join me by simply saying, and so it is.